from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up today on AgDay, growing rice in a wet season.
I don't expect that we're going to have a record yield this year.
We have an update on how it's going.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. With this wet, late spring, dairy producers are worried there won't be enough feed in the fall. We have that story ahead in the show.
Plus, more controversy for Fair Oaks Farm after a new video is released and a lawsuit is filed.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The nation's largest dairy remains in the spotlight after an animal rights group releases a third video it claims shows more abuse at Fair Oaks Farm in northern Indiana, and now a lawsuit alleging fraud. The lawsuit filed in Chicago federal court. The Chicago Tribune reporting the class action suit was filed by a California man who's a consumer of Fairlife milk. The man saying he purchased Fairlife because of the promise listed on the label, stating that farmers who supply the milk provide, quote, extraordinary animal care. The suit comes a week after an animal rights group released a video showing calves being thrown and kicked. Now, as we told you earlier this week, investigators in Newton County, Indiana, released the names of 3 suspects they're looking for in connection with that video. Police telling AgDay they're still looking for them. One of them now in custody, 36-year-old Edgar Vasquez. He's been arrested on a warrant for animal cruelty, a misdemeanor, and torturing or mutilating a vertebrate animal. That's a felony. Now, that same animal rights group has released a third video from another Fair Oaks Farm barn. It shows cows being milked on a carousel after apparently giving birth. Narration on the video claims bloodied, injured cows are forced onto the milking carousel and that sick cow legs are strapped. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon is talking with dairy industry experts about this new video. She's also reached out to the animal activist group. Look for continuing coverage on this story, on air and online from AgDay. President Trump traveling to Iowa this week to tout the benefits of year-round E15 sales. He spoke Tuesday after touring Southwest Iowa Renewable Energy. The company produces and sells the corn-based fuel additive ethanol.
As a candidate for president, I pledge to support our ethanol industry and to fight for the American farmer like no president has ever fought before. And we're winning these fights, and you're great patriots, I will tell you.
The president also saying his trade policies will help Iowa farmers, speaking specifically about the USMCA agreement, pushing for its passage in Congress.
It's incredible for the farmer, for the manufacturer, for virtually everybody. It's going to go down as one of the greatest trade deals, already acknowledged to be one of the best negotiated trade deals. But if you look at Canada with the tremendous tariffs they were charging you to sell your product inside, and Mexico, it's all a much more balanced, much more fair transaction.
More than 900 food and agriculture companies and associations are asking Senate and House leadership to move quickly to approve the deal. Groups that signed the deal noted the International Trade Commission estimates that the new agreement will add $68.2 billion to annual gross domestic product. While in Iowa, President Trump signed an executive order intended to simplify the regulatory process for genetically engineered agriculture. The White House said in a statement that the order is intended to help eliminate delays and reduce cost for producers. Now, Iowa is a critical first-in-the-nation caucus state, and while President Trump was visiting the state, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden was also there. Speaking Tuesday evening in Davenport, Biden suggested President Trump was a, quote, existential threat to America, saying voters must stop the president's attempt to elevate his office beyond its traditional limits of power.
I think we can overcome it. A lot of damage has been done. It's going to take a lot of hard work. But ladies and gentlemen, if he's in the White House for 8 years, he's going to forever change and fundamentally alter the character of this nation. I really mean it. This is beyond the issues. I believe that Trump poses a fundamental threat to America.
Biden calling President Trump's trade war with China and recent immigration deal with Mexico bad for farmers, saying Iowans are being crushed by the president's tariffs. USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue in Iowa with the president, saying ahead of the trip, the agency is exploring ways to provide a minimal per acre tariff aid payment to those who file for Prevent Plant and in turn plant an eligible crop for forage. As AgDay's Betsy Gibbon reports, that's good news in parts of the livestock industry worried there may not be enough hay or silage come fall.
Another truck of alfalfa hay is approaching John Metzger's dairy in Kimmel, Indiana. A crop chopped for animal feed arriving late due to a wet spring.
It's 2 weeks behind. Value is not as good, near what it should have been.
The difficult spring has been hard for planting too. Livestock producers with land planting corn in muddy fields because they need to grow it for feed.
We got to have feed, so we're shoving it in.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture saying while corn planting is progressing, it's still behind. It's to the point where it's too late to plant and achieve a good yield. And it's past the date to plant corn and be fully covered under federal crop insurance.
The worry for feed is not short term. It's in the fall when beef producers and dairymen want it, and there's likely to be a shortage because of the wet late spring.
And with the wide area across the nation being short on feed, if we don't have corn, where we're going to get it?
Metzger already receiving a heads up feed and bedding may be short in Indiana.
We've already talked to some of our vendors, some of them that we've got straw over the years. They don't have any excess straw.
Since the whole Midwest may have the same problem, he may need to adjust what he feeds his cattle.
Most of these dairies rely on corn silage and alfalfa silage or alfalfa hay, right? So corn silage represents about 35 to 40% of what the cows eat.
And he may have to truck in the groceries he would normally produce on his own, or pay farmers extra money as an incentive to sell to him.
Well, I'll have to. I don't have a choice. You got to feed them. So that's kind of a no-win situation.
It goes from homegrown forages to purchased forages, and all of a sudden your purchase feed costs will go up, and that will have an impact, negative impact on the cash flow of these operations.
Metzger will take the late trucks and long days for now until he has to make bigger decisions in the fall. Reporting in Kimmel, Indiana, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. The dairy producer says he's considering planting sorghum because he can plant it longer, use it in his animal feed rations, and it's cheaper to plant. For example, just across the state line in Michigan, USDA says hay stocks as of May 1st were down 31% compared to a year ago and are the lowest since the drought of 2012. It's the second lowest amount on a per ton basis since records began back in 1950. Life on the farm can be great for families, and that includes farm dogs, as meteorologist Mike Hoffman shows us in today's Crop Comments. Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. One dog is really loving life right now. Kevin McSweeney of Gailton, Colorado shared this video on his Twitter page. This is his dog, Sage. Kevin said this was day 2 of the ditch on his property running. And you can tell Sage is loving every minute of it. A great day for a game of fetch. I'll take a look at your forecast coming up in just a little while.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
Wheat prices getting a little boost from USDA's latest report. When we come back, we'll talk wheat fundamentals with Craig Turner. And later, we check in on a crop that usually loves a lot of water, rice. We'll see how it's coming along way down south.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
A big day for soybeans on Wednesday, up double digits. That's after USDA's chief economist told Reuters the agency will be prepared to revise its U.S. soybean production forecast next month.
Soybeans finally rallied. The USDA did raise their prices, their price forecast for soybeans from $8.10 to $8.25, and that is because they're looking to that July report for the real acreage adjustment. We knew that they didn't have enough data coming into this last WASDE report, but now the idea that we're going to get a little bit better, better information in July gave soybeans a little bit of boost, and believe me, they needed it. Now, corn did rise more today. That bullish WASDE report did lift the futures, and that follow-through buying just tells us that the market's still looking strong, and The weather was certainly the weather problems was certainly I think offering a lot of support to the market. Clearly, we're beyond the point of no return. Cattle was lower. Those sagging beef prices may last to the end of the summer, and that has traders a little bit worried. The late start to the grilling season really set back futures a lot, and it's struggling for some footing to find its way.
Greg Turner, author of Turner's Take and broker over Daniels Trading, here talking about wheat today, and it has been an interesting market to watch as well. We're in the middle of harvest season down in the Southern Plains, kicking off June, trying to get that crop in. But boy, the market has been moving in interesting ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Wheat was on a tear for a while. It was actually the leader, which hadn't been a leader up in in a while, and there was heat and not a whole lot of rain going on in Russia and Ukraine, and they were worried they were going to have a big crop there, but they were worried about maybe the top coming off the yield, which probably has happened, and that really helped wheat come up. And there's been weather issues too now. I mean, it's so wet in the eastern part of the Corn Belt. That hasn't been good for the soft red winter wheat, which is the Chicago contract.
Right.
In the western part of the belt, where you have more Kansas City and hard red wheat, you're going to have big yields, but that usually means lower protein, right? And another interesting thing about wheat is that the difference between Kansas City and Chicago. In normal years, the Kansas City wheat, that hard red winter wheat, has a higher protein, and it could trade maybe 30 to 60 cents over that Chicago contract. And right now it's about 50 under. So it's almost historical lows, between the two. And it also brings into question about deliveries. If everything's based on protein content and you can have substitutes, that's causing some issues in the market. So it's a very interesting time in wheat. And also too, just the fact that we have so much of it. There's 1 billion bushels on the carryout, yet we may have protein problems. So it's very difficult to sort out right now.
Well, and as we look at the price of wheat as it's come up, we talk a lot about using wheat for feed because we do have so much of it, but does it start to take itself out of that picture as the prices go up?
Yeah, it absolutely does, because if corn was going much higher and wheat were depressed, sometimes wheat can become corn in terms of a feed wheat, in a corn substitute. But yeah, now that wheat is coming up, that's actually been supportive of corn. And the dollar is coming down, so that should help with the exports a little bit, but it is a little bit of a conundrum here about what wheat's going to do.
Yeah, it has been an interesting spring so far, and of course we're just now starting harvest. Appreciate you being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
To contact Craig or listen to his podcast, go to turnerstake.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here, looking at the wind speed map, and this is going to feel not quite like June, right?
The western Great Lakes are going to be chilly today.
Okay.
Yeah, little doubt about that, especially with the wind. High temperatures across the western Great Lakes only expected to be in the 50s and low 60s with a 20-25 mile per hour wind at times. So not going to feel like June at all in that area. And you can see that wind area expands as we head through the afternoon, with some areas going 25 miles per hour plus. Parts of northern Indiana, northwestern Ohio into Michigan. Also a little breezy. Texas Panhandle back through the southwest. Heading through tonight then, you can see it remains breezy in parts of the western portions of Texas all the way up into southern Minnesota. The winds with this system shift into the eastern Great Lakes and parts of the mid-Atlantic, and heading through the afternoon, that area is going to continue to be on the windy side, and it turns windy again from Wisconsin, northern Illinois, back into parts of the southwest. All right, here's the weather map for today, and you can see two systems there, one along the east coast, one in the central Great Lakes, both of them causing some areas of rain, in some cases thunderstorms, but we're really talking more just rain in a lot of these situations. Double barrel area of low pressure kind of coming southward with the next cold front. Doesn't have a lot of moisture with it, but scattered showers with that. Very much hit and miss shower activity in the west, kind of typical for this time of the year. By tomorrow morning, the low pressure system into the northeastern Great Lakes taking off across eastern Canada as we head through the day. So there'll be scattered showers through the northern tier of states and a few spots out west. Nothing major as we head through the day tomorrow, although Central and South Florida may get some heavier thunderstorms. There's a precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. You can see a lot of it along the southeast coast, adding in the next 36. Well, we had a fair amount in parts of the central Great Lakes, fair amount in South Florida, like we talked about, and a few spots along the shore in the Northeast. High temperatures today, upper 50s, lower 60s for much of the Great Lakes, 80s by the time you get to the Gulf Coast. You can see it is heating up in the desert Southwest. Lows tonight only 85 in Phoenix, but we're looking at 40s and 50s across the Great Lakes. High temperatures tomorrow afternoon, then it starts to warm up again for the Central Plains. There's the jet stream. That's all because of the trough. That's that chilly air. Now, we do go a little more zonal, though, as we head through the weekend and into next week. A little bit of a trough trying to dig in again into the northern plains by Thursday and Friday. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Casper, Wyoming, first of all, warm with an afternoon thunderstorm in some areas, high temperature of 79. Jackson, Mississippi, a good deal of sunshine and mild, high of 81. And Syracuse, New York, cool with a shower or thunderstorm likely, high 62.
Beyond Meat stock has been riding a wave lately, but the plant-based burger company has hit a bump on Wall Street. Details next. The price for a share of Beyond Meat almost tripled on the first day of trading in May, and the price has continued to surge. But now JP Morgan has announced it's downgraded stock of the plant-based burger company from neutral to overweight.
Basically, Wall Street now says the stock is overvalued. JP Morgan was the first Wall Street analytics firm to downgrade Beyond Meat, and that sent the stock price 25% lower. Beyond Meat's share price has already exceeded the price target of every analyst on Wall Street, and short sellers have lost more than $400 million betting against Beyond Meat since it went public.
The alternative meat company had an initial offering price of $25 a share, the stock surging more than 600% from that initial offering. There is reportedly a new outbreak of African swine fever in China, this time in the southern province of Jiangsu. The Chinese Ministry of Agriculture reporting the outbreak killed 15 pigs on a farm of 331. The National Pork Producers Council putting out a release saying China now represents the single greatest sales opportunity in U.S. pork history, but adding that trade disputes are hampering growth. African swine fever is becoming such a problem in China, some believe the country's turning to beef. In fact, Chinese beef imports have surged. There have been hefty beef shipments from Australia. The world's largest pork market purchased almost 129,000 tons of beef in April. That's 75% more than a year earlier. But the price is also rising, and that means people in China are shifting to other protein-rich foods such as chicken and eggs. Others say China's farmers may be starting to slaughter their own dairy cows for beef.
It's going to boost the whole protein complex. So, you're talking about such a big loss of one part of the supply that all protein sectors are going to be impacted. So again, beef will get a boost from that. U.S. beef will, potentially participate in that. We don't export much beef to China right now. Of course, we have the ongoing tariff situation, which makes that a further hurdle. But indirectly, at least, the beef industry will participate in some of that.
Peel says China is already buying pork from the U.S. despite current tariffs. Rice is known as a crop that loves water, but not as much as we've seen in 2019. An update from Louisiana next. It has been a struggle for rice producers in Louisiana this year. Heavy rains flooded fields early in the season and put the crop way behind its normal growing cycle. Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux has this report from Crowley, Louisiana.
Louisiana's rice crop is finally seeing sunshine and warm temperatures, which make for ideal growing conditions. But it may be coming too late for farmers in Louisiana. Wet weather early in the season kept farmers from fertilizing and applying herbicides in a timely manner, causing the rice to become stressed. This will reduce yield potential.
I don't expect that we're going to have a record yield this year. We just had too many negative effects that have really hurt our yield potential. We may have a good year, but in the end of the year, it won't be anywhere close to record years.
Another problem facing rice farmers is low prices, which can be blamed on a very large carryover crop from last year. These low prices are impacting acreage.
We do expect to see a large reduction in acres, especially in Arkansas. We're going to lose some acres in northeast Louisiana, and that will help stabilize the prices, but it's really not enough to, at least I don't believe, in the short run to lift those prices.
One problem seen is rice that stretched to grow in fields that were flooded by rain shortly after emerging. This rice grew quickly, but when the water was taken off, it could not support itself and fell over. Because of the frequent rains, fertilizer applications were applied on flooded fields, reducing their effectiveness.
This reduces the efficiency of that nitrogen quite a bit. You lose a lot of that nitrogen, and you lose a lot of your yield potential there, so that's another problem.
Harold cautioned growers that their rice may react somewhat sluggishly to the ideal growing conditions because of the stress the crop went through earlier in the season. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.